We're recording. For posterity, okay?
Yes, you're live now, Roy.
Good to know.
Or at
Furiously
least you're
caffeinating.
being recorded.
Yeah.
You're about to be Facebook Live.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are a little behind as we pull together tech in a new location, the adventure of running remotely in person live from a different place. So here we are. A number of us just went through the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center, which is an awesome place to visit. If you have not been up here from Buffalo, you should come up. It is a small site with a lot of history, and it's an amazing place. Reverend Wiley and I joined a bunch of our fans from the Friends community in Orchard Park, and they may come in as we continue here. And Reverend Hughes is signing on. We had a bunch of things that we wanted to talk about today because like history is being made every single day, it seems, in current at the same time as all sorts of other stuff is going on in the world where we are talking about things. So in the progressive, try to be anti-racist world, you need the link?
Yeah. Did you send it already?
I will send it again.
No. Just let me find it. If you've sent it already, let me find it.
It's okay.
No, whenever you send it, I never. Here, find it.
Sorry about that, everyone. We are.
It's okay. No, you know what? You haven't sent it to me because
it's on your calendar.
But it's not on that calendar.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I got you. No problem. Don't send it again. Don't worry. I will find it.
So today's topics here at the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center, we have a number of topics that we're thinking about. Number one is really why we have this underground railroad heritage center here in Niagara Falls. Why did all of the formerly enslaved people who were striving for freedom end up here and decide to go across the river, which is right over there, right? We can see Niagara Falls, Niagara River from here. And here Wiley has entered. Excellent. And albeit it's through a heck of a lot of rain, so we're not. You're in now, Wiley.
Yes, I am.
Excellent. And so we have this whole question of why escaped people who were formerly enslaved didn't just stick around in New York. And of course, that's answered here almost immediately by the tour guides here, because, and so for those of you who don't have the history on that, think back to 1850 and the Fugitive Slave Act, and we will talk about that in a minute. Other questions going on right now. We were reading 2 books this week, all about housing inequity. So we read, for those of you keeping up with our reading, an old book called The Color of Law, not that old, from like 5 years ago, but the follow-up to The Color of Law, a book called Just Action by the author Richard Rothstein and his social justice organizer daughter, Leah Rothstein. And they have some suggestions about what to do next in the world of housing inequity, and we're going to talk about that. And then we have this thing. We have a new presidential candidate since we last spoke, which is pretty interesting. And we will talk about the Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris candidacy as well. I think that's enough, huh?
That's a lot.
Okay. So with that on our agenda, we, Reverend Hughes and I spoke earlier this week, and one of the things, Pastor, that you brought up that I thought was really worth talking about was this quote that you brought from Marianne Williamson and soullessness. You wanna mention that?
Yeah, so hold on, let me get my sound here. I'm unmuted.
No, you don't have to unmute.
Oh,
You're coming in through the mic right here.
oh yeah, okay. There's a delay, so just trying to. So I heard in an interview, Marianne Williamson in an interview, um, she was asked about the state of politics in our country, and they were trying to push her into a to pick a side. Are you gonna run as an independent? You're gonna run as a Democrat or Republic? And she said, terms like independent, Republican, Democrat, they're all fine terms. Terms like socialism, communism, capitalism, these are all fine terms. The problem is the people who utilize them. She said, when you have people that use these systems that have no soul. Uh-oh, lost something here. I just got kicked off.
Oh,
You
sorry.
just got kicked off too.
No, I'm still
Oh,
here.
you're still in?
Yeah.
Man, I was just about to.
No, keep on going.
I'm still in?
Yeah, you're well.
Okay. All right. There, I'm back. All right. So she was saying that these terms, these political ideas are fine if the people who utilize them have a soul, right? She talked about how she wanted to bring the soul back into politics, the soul back into our country, in the sense of let's practice capitalism with a soul. Let's practice capitalism, but let's be aware of the humanity of the people who bear the brunt of that system. If we're going to talk about socialism, fine, but let's talk about it from an aspect of having a soul. If we're going to govern our people, let's govern with the soul. That way, the negative fallout from these things can be mitigated. So she talked about they were asking her about reparations because her ticket was all about reparations for African Americans. Yeah, let's do this like this. And so they asked her, well, what about reparations? She said, well, I'm all about reparations, but let's have a soul, right? Let's talk about what it means to grant reparations. Is it just about writing a check? Is it just about sprinkling money on African Americans? Or can this reparations address the grievances? Can this address the negative blowback from racism and slavery and white supremacy? Right.
So this is really interesting because the Rothsteins talk about the difference between the word reparations and remedies. And to a certain extent, we saw that in Dorothy Brown's suggestions 2 weeks ago as well.
Right.
That what we were looking at, and we're welcoming our friends who are friends. So thank you all for being here live and in person. I know there are more people coming, but we're talking. So Marianne Williamson talks about this idea that we have systems, and the problem with our systems is not whether or not we call them socialist or capitalist or any of these things. Yeah, come forward. But whether or not they are systems with a soul. That any system without a soul, let's call it what it is. Any system without a soul is oppression.
It's oppression. I 100% agree.
And what we have in the United States is, I have spoken a lot about, call it the mean nature of our capitalism. That our capitalism in the United States is really just mean. But I like the soulless articulation better. The idea, again, we claim to be a nation founded with some degree of spiritual consciousness, right? There's a significant background to American ideas of spirituality, and
there we are.
Hopefully the mic will pick everybody up now.
That's what we're trying.
So there's this idea of spiritual consciousness. We talk about being a Christian country. People use the word Judeo-Christian totally inappropriately because it's one of my pet peeves. you don't want to talk to my family about how I talk about Judeo-Christian because they're sick of it. Right, because the only people who call themselves Judeo-Christians
Are Christians.
there were no Jews involved in
That's
that
right.
decision making.
That's right. That's a Christian term.
Right.
It is a Christian term.
It's the way the founders, let's call it, of the Ivy League institutions identified as being seriously Christian. We're not, unserious Christians. We're
Right.
so serious we're going to read Hebrew, and therefore we're Judeo-Christian.
Right.
No, that's why there's Hebrew in the crest for Yale.
Mhm.
For Yale University, because
Connecting to our Jewish roots is what I heard when I was in seminary. They literally said that to me in seminary. They said, yeah, well, we consider because I, coming from the Baptist church, I never heard of Judeo-Christian as a term. So I said, Professor, what does that mean? Oh, it means that now with the advent of technology and research, we're now uncovering the Jewishness of Jesus, and we are reconnecting with the Jewish heritage that is inherent in our faith.
So I'm going to connect
I was
that to
told.
the capitalism and the soullessness stuff.
Yes.
Because it is only a soullessness among Christians that can claim Judaism for themselves without talking to Jews.
Yes, exactly.
In the same way that it is a soullessness in the capitalism that can claim taking advantage of capital opportunities, and those opportunities include using literally the ownership of people for that.
Right.
That there's no reasonable, even smart, even forget soul-filled understanding of capitalism that says, okay, we get to own people in this process.
It's Christian imperialism, is what a colleague of mine called it.
Right, and
It was Christian
It's
imperialism.
not even good Christianity, right? They
Right,
had to
of
come
course
up
not.
with a new
They
argument
had to come up with a new
in
idea.
Christianity,
Yes.
right? So all of the curse of Ham stuff, that's not 2nd century Christianity or even 11th century
No,
Christianity. That's 15th, 16th, and 17th century Christianity justifying imperialism.
And it was made popular in the 18th century, 19th century in America, like big time in America.
So I have a question based on our experience here at the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center, because one of the things about this experience for me is I really love the presentation of history. However, the presentation of history here emphasizes Black abolitionists, which is really an important corrective, because for a long time we've had this idea that somehow it was white abolitionists who did abolitionism and not Black abolitionists. I think we need to really start talking about abolitionism as a minority voice, a movement in American history that is multicultural and not either Black or white.
May I make a point to that?
Please, I
Which-
leave it to you. I say the controversial stuff, and then
Right,
you
right.
get to,
Then I get to piggyback on it. So, yes, I'll let you take the hit for it. And the man, who was the Tyler, he almost hit on it, but time got away from him. He was about to go into this idea that the abolition movement really was ongoing before it was called an abolition movement. That the act of freeing slaves was a slave and former slave movement, and it was only when white people got involved did they become an abolitionist movement. They coined the term. You'll hear Frederick Douglass talk about that at length. He praises abolitionists, but they would call him an abolitionist, and he would say, yeah, it's a little bit different than that, right? So we have, to quote Frederick Douglass, paraphrase Frederick Douglass, we have been trying to free ourselves almost since we were first captured, right? And so this idea that the narrative that white people sort of was the face of the abolition movement is exactly what we're going to talk about today. How is it that even that got co-opted?
Well, and so the author of our next book, right, is Manisha Sinha.
Yes.
Right. So this is our next book, our follow-up for 2 weeks from today. And her first book, so this is The Rise and Fall of the Second American Republic. Her first book is called The Slave's Cause. And she does a multicultural history of abolitionism, going back to before it was called abolitionism.
Right.
Also recognizing that internationally, there was an anti-slave movement
Right.
successful long before our Civil War, right?
Right.
Not only is New York State the last state to abolish slavery, but the United States are the last industrialized country to
Right.
abolish slavery.
Right.
So there's a whole, so this is, and again, we are stuck constantly on talking about a history that we deliberately forget and retell differently for the sake, again, going back to this question of soulless capitalism,
Right.
soulless America. We tell history to get rid of the things that would in fact make us more soulful.
Thank you. Say it again for the people who were paying attention.
Rid of the history from, we edit history to make it soulless, to take away from the soulful opportunities because part of being a soulful person, a spiritual person, a religious person is grappling with our difficulties.
That's right.
And my difficulties include the fact that I'm a white guy who participates in society that benefits me, despite the fact that I don't necessarily have any slave owning ancestors.
Right.
I am still the beneficiary of a mean capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
And that means if I want to actually be a better person, I need to grapple with the way I earn things that I didn't earn, that I get stuff that is a freebie to some people at other people's expense, right? My Uncle Roy is on this call, and our family, the Friarish family, right? I've said it before, we are the beneficiaries of things like the GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did my grandfather need the GI Bill? No.
Mine did.
That's right.
And couldn't get it.
And couldn't get it.
Right.
Right. So here we have, two contemporary ministerial people.
Right.
One of whom is descended directly from immigrants who arrived in the United States in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Both of my grandfathers didn't actually pick up a gun in World War II.
Mm.
They were both educated men. One worked in Oak Ridge, Tennessee as a chemist, and one worked for the VA as a physical therapist.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Both of them recipients of the GI Bill because they worked for the U.S. Army.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them could have done without it. On account of that benefit, which all of our ancestors paid for, and as we'll talk about today about one of the things that the Rothsteins bring out is the unfair tax burden on African Americans, that African Americans pay disproportionately more in taxes.
Right.
And get fewer benefits.
Right.
So this is a benefit that for all intents and purposes, your ancestors helped me get, and
Right.
you didn't get.
Right. Right.
So it doesn't matter that my ancestors weren't mostly here in the United States when slavery took place.
Right.
I am still the beneficiary because, again, one of the things that was pointed out today, another important historical fact, slavery continued.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We have not even 10 years post-Civil War where we don't have a slaveholding economy before that economy is relaunched as a slaveholding economy.
Yes. And that's another thing that he hinted on, that the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, except in the case of punitive criminal justice, right? Except in the case of committing a crime. When you committed a crime, you became warden of the state, and as warden of the state, they can do whatever they want to with you. So he talked about convict leasing. If you continue down that line of logic, convict leasing became one of the most lucrative businesses even today. The same prison industrial complex that we talk about today began making their fortune way back when they passed these laws that just criminalized Black life.
Right. And one thing I would point out is not everything is a conspiracy to do this. I don't think the framers of the 13th Amendment had convict leasing in mind.
Of course not.
Right? The framers of the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment, they were radical abolitionists.
Right.
They were serious about crafting a new society. The fact that the black codes and the laws that became known as the Jim Crow laws
Yeah.
in the disintegration of Reconstruction, when the U.S. government was agreed to pull
To pull
out
back, yeah.
from the military enforcement of Reconstruction. The fact that those laws took advantage of
Right.
that had nothing to do with the design of the 13th Amendment.
Right, right,
So
right. Well, and this is sort of a common theme throughout our conversations, is that all of these there's good measures that the country and the government enacts. Sorry, let you get settled. Come on in. No, you're good. You're good. Come on in. Come on in.
oh, no,
Come
no,
on
it's
in.
all good.
Come on in.
We'll
So,
get names in a minute.
yes. So we have this common thread that sort of ties in all of the good things, I'll put them in quotation marks, all of the good things that our government does to address some of these problems. There's always a good intention behind them. I will grant that. There's always good intention. What they never anticipate is the backlash. And you can read hundreds of books. One particularly comes to mind, the book called White Rage, by, what's the lady's name? I see her face. I think her name is Carol or something.
Yeah,
She wrote
excellent book.
It's a good book, and it talks about not so much, it talks about the response that the American people had to these measures. She talked a lot about her when she was growing up. She's sort of my mother's age. She said that the Civil Rights Bill, when the Civil Rights Bill was passed in what, 64? Civil Rights Bill was passed in 64. She talked about, you can look at
Voting rights.
the Voting Rights Act,
Yes.
the Voting Rights Act, that's it, right? The Voting Rights Act. She said, you can look at how many laws were passed after that that worked to either counteract it or to gut it all together. How the American political system fought so hard against those rights that the people who framed the Voting Rights Act didn't anticipate that. They didn't anticipate an angry backlash. They thought, well, once we introduce this bill, we're good. Right? Let's get it done. And then they got all of this pushback.
So on that topic,
Yes.
so one of the things that that the Rothsteins point out, and Richard Rothstein points it out in his book, The Color of Law. Oh, and I meant to introduce ourselves. So since we started out just the two of us. So I'm Jonathan Freirish. I'm a rabbi in Buffalo. I run an organization called Open Door Judaism, but really what I am doing now is I am partner with Reverend Hughes in this project, which we call Accomplices for Justice. And our intent, our goal in Accomplices for Justice is to figure out how to turn a conversation into an action. Because there's a lot of talking.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of talking in a lot of places all over, and all the more so here in Buffalo. Like, we've got a ton of talking in Western New York, and we've grown so accustomed to saying good things that don't lead to good action that we need to change that. So we're going to work on that. So that's my mission, and in partnership with Reverend Hughes. You want to say something about yourself?
Yes, my name is Reverend Dr. Wiley Hughes. I am pastor of Orchard Park Presbyterian Church right here in Orchard Park, New York. And I hail from Atlanta, Georgia, by way of Florida. And I am trying to change some narratives. I am trying to change some narratives, dispel some myths, and to maybe recreate something good in this world.
All right. And give us your name and your affiliation that brought you here, starting with Sal.
Okay. Sally Zelasco, live in Orchard Park, and met these fine gentlemen. They just down the road. I'm a member of the Quaker Church, and a few of us are trying to change the narrative, trying to get into action for some good.
My name is Tay Todd, officially Charlotte, but nobody calls me that. And it's my relationship with this is very similar to what Sally was saying. We met you guys, learned about you guys at various things, and then when we heard about this was happening, we wanted to get into it.
Much appreciated.
Well, you guys are much appreciated.
Please.
I'm Sarah Thielen, the Barb's, and she invited me today because we live in a very old home that has some history that may point the Underground Railroad, although now that I've listened to this fellow, I'm
Yeah,
hoping
we
it's
don't
not
know.
just a myth.
Look, we are all in
Say
good
all of
company.
them.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are all in good company. There are so many homes in the Hudson Valley and in New Jersey that claim to have been places where George Washington slept.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Same kind of thing. or-
Yes. Yes.
So if I were to choose a mythology that I'd rather be attached to, I'd rather be attached to the Underground Railroad than to
Right.
George
Then
Washington.
George Washington, right?
A woman getting her master's degree from Purdue University, she did extensive research on our house and the area in general. The Colvins who originally lived in the house, who were Quakers and supposedly involved, you know. So that was, you know, my connection here, and I'm so grateful I got to go see this. This is
What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Sarah Thielen.
Sarah.
Thank you, Barb.
I'm Allison Hyde from East Aurora, New York. I belong to the Orchard Park Friends Meeting of Quakers in Orchard Park. And I want to be an accomplice. I want to learn and I want to take action. I took action in the Vietnam War era, demonstrating, you know, with signs and my baby on my back. Now I don't stand out there anymore on the street, but I could.
And I don't know how much good that does.
Mm.
Does it, you know?
We're gonna talk
Talk
about
about
next
that,
steps.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you speak of talk and taking action, I want to learn from the talk and I want to take action,
Right.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot.
Informed action.
informed action.
And it's wonderful to have gone through this with you. Please tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you guys for welcoming me. First of all, feel like I just bombarded you guys' program, but I accept the welcome and thank you once again. I am Chiquita Stewart. I am coming from Houston, Texas.
Wow.
This was my birthday vacation trip.
Oh.
So yes, I am just so excited to be here. I love the civil rights tours and so I'm always on it. So, and I didn't find out about this until I was in the airport. No clue. And a lady from here, she was like, you have to go. And I was like, say no more. I'm definitely there. And this is actually my first stop. My next stop is hopefully into the falls, but we'll see. But before the rain moved out pretty
Yeah,
quick.
Yeah, it'll go.
The falls are there. They're not going.
They're not
Yes.
going.
They're open 24/7.
I am an educator as well as a youth advocate. Yes, I have an organization called Bake with Confidence in Houston, Texas, where I actually work with the youth through the art of baking, teaching them self-esteem, self-confidence, and entrepreneurship through the art of baking.
Excellent.
Just just a different perspective. At the end of the day, we all sit down at the kitchen table
Mm.
and we talk. We talk and we eat, and which is something that has been lost, unfortunately, in our community, and I want to bring it back as much as possible. And also, who doesn't like to eat?
We got places for you to join us here in Buffalo.
Well,
doing
hey.
Exactly that.
Send an
Yes, we do.
invitation.
I
I'm
got our
ready to
good
go.
trouble group.
Yes, we do.
Tuesday.
Yes, we
And thank
do.
you, Barb.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Barb, you want to enforce?
Yeah, we need to get some, yeah, somebody needs to write down your connections.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We will figure it out.
Okay.
Barb,
So
you wanna-
I'm Barb for Bruce, I currently live in Orchard Park. And Tay sent me your website and I participate, well, yes, we didn't get to participate, the storm shut us off. So, but we listened to your discussion.
Yes, oh, the last time, yes.
I said, this is something I cannot miss. So, and I am a person of action. I have a lot of history with action.
Yeah, you're good.
I don't like to, I mean, I do like to talk things through because you have to learn, but loud talking doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah,
I do stuff.
Nanette Massey has said, hey, we're.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, Nanette Massey is on with us as well.
Oh,
So
yeah, she did a great workshop with us at the meeting house.
she's done a ton of great things.
And she
So,
works with kids
She's
too.
our resident troublemaker.
so Richard Rothstein
she's cool.
said something that is on topic to what we've been talking, which is that with the 13th Amendment, all of our housing inequity stuff is fundamentally unconstitutional. That
Yes.
that all of the housing inequity recreates second-class citizenship for African Americans in this country. And second-class citizenship is a reiteration of slavery. So this is his argument in the color of law, the color of law. So, and therefore, he basically said, what we have done, what American housing has done, American residential philosophy and law has reified over and over again something that is unconstitutional and illegal. That is treating people differently and worse for some people on where people get to live and what homes they get to live in and what they have to pay for them. And this started early on. It started not just in the South with formal segregation. It was from the beginning in the North. His first story in there is about Richmond in California and how the workers, African American workers who were brought in to work on in arms plants were forced into substandard housing and were not allowed to move with the plant because when the plant moved from Richmond down to Milpitas, there was no available housing made for African Americans at all. And this idea that the Bay Area has fundamental segregated housing from the start, that public housing, subsidized government housing was segregated on purpose by law from the start, despite the fact that it's unconstitutional.
Right.
Right, that this is not about what is called de jure, right? That it's in the practice, it's about, it's not about, de facto, it's about de jure, right? De jure means by law.
Right.
Right? It's not by custom. It wasn't some, collusion of racist real estate agents. No, the racist real estate agents were supported by an ethics code written into real estate code of ethics for all real estate agents that they had to abide or they were cast out by their real estate associations, that if they sold to African Americans in white neighborhoods, they lost their real estate license.
Yes.
So this is no sort of informal thing. This is the FHA, the Federal Housing Authority, not securing loans given to African Americans in white neighborhoods.
Yep.
Despite the fact that it was deemed unconstitutional. So we have a history of not just telling bad history, but pursuing bad law.
Right.
For the sake of racism.
Bad law.
Went on even without laws. I grew up Fort Wayne, Indiana, during the civil rights movement was going on at that time. And there were black neighborhoods and there were white neighborhoods, and that's just the way it was.
No,
And
that's
during
not just the way it was.
But it wasn't.
So we need to get out of the habit of saying that's just the way it was.
Well, but
Because
during that period of time, the NAACP was sponsoring black families to move into white neighborhoods, and our neighborhood was on the cusp. We were kind of and so a black family moved in across the street from us, which was nice.
This has always been by design.
Yeah.
This is somebody somewhere thought it was inappropriate for white people to live next to black people, period. And
Apparently, but yeah,
And-
I'm saying
and
it was a social thing, yeah.
No.
Oh, it's illegal.
Even without the law to support it
So-
happened.
we need to take ownership of the fact that things don't just happen.
Yeah.
The design of American residence, the way we live in suburbs, in houses, in single family dwellings, as opposed to in shared dwellings, right? The rest of the world doesn't live this way.
Right.
Right. True.
Right.
We live inefficiently. We live far from shopping.
Yes.
I live in a home that needs to be supported by 2 automobiles. What the heck?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Nowhere else in the world do we have that.
And I live in the city of Buffalo when that's the case, right? Were I to try to run my household on public transportation, it would not work.
Mm.
That is by design. Remember,
Yes.
Buffalo was the most electrified city in 1900 in the world.
Mhm.
Really?
City of Lights.
The city of lights. We had streetcars connecting uptown and downtown,
Mhm.
connecting places to work. They were gotten rid of when automobiles came in,
Mhm.
because rich people wanted to take their own cars.
Right.
Continuing a move out of the neighborhoods that served industries. If you were wealthy enough to move out of them, so people who entered middle management moved away from the neighborhoods where the industries were.
Mhm.
So we had, Irish and Italians and Germans who lived in the first ward, and Jews moving constantly north or south, right? Which is why, how do you describe Orchard Park Presbyterian Church and Orchard Park?
As we say, lily white. Yeah.
My youngest daughter is biracial. She never had a date all the way through high school.
So the history of Buffalo is by design.
Mhm.
Things don't just happen. And when we own this, we look into current events, and we now have to say, okay, so now what? Now we have a pastor, Reverend Dr. Hughes and his family, who cannot buy a home in Orchard Park.
Right.
Right.
I thought that's against the law.
But a lot of the deeds in Orchard Park have it written into them
Yeah.
that you can't sell to
It's
anybody.
called Gates. It's called Gates law, and
To this day?
to this day,
What?
it's to this day. There, and the way they disguised it is, like she said, it's in the deed, not the home.
Oh.
So you can buy. So if you even
can't
if
believe that.
Yeah, I
if
just
you
wondered
can
about
buy a
that.
home,
Maybe from the
then that
net
gets you with the
actually.
deed, right? So, and it's again, it's law, but not lawful,
Wow.
is what you were saying earlier, right?
So
It's
we have laws. So Richard Rothstein the Rothsteins have an entire chapter in the second book, in Just Action, which we're going to talk about in a second, about how we need to defy the Supreme Court.
Mm.
Because we have a history of people, of lower court justices defying the Supreme Court, not just in the last 50 years, but during post-Dred Scott,
Mhm.
when
Right.
judges said, we're not doing that.
Right.
We need to defy the unprincipled law coming down from the top, and we need to defy the unprincipled law in the local
Exactly.
settings as well.
Exactly.
Because if we don't, we end up with people who claim to be heirs to the Declaration of Independence, heirs to the Constitution, who are acting like, because women didn't have rights in 1789, women shouldn't have rights today.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's not true.
That's right.
That because African Americans didn't have rights in 1789, African Americans shouldn't have rights today. No,
No.
the designers of the Constitution designed it to be amended,
Right.
designed it to be updated. The people who are claiming quote unquote originalism are doing it to claim original access to power at the expense of everyone else.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
And that's unacceptable.
It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable in Houston. I know very little about Houston, but I do know that the impact of hurricanes in Houston is not racially equal,
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, absolutely.
Personal is where they live.
right? Because neighborhoods in Houston, like neighborhoods in New Orleans,
Yep.
like neighborhoods in Buffalo, are not equally resourced
That's
to
correct.
withstand. I have lead pipes in my house, not in my house, in the connection between the main line and my house line. So Buffalo will replace my lines from the main line, my water line, God willing, in the next couple of weeks, to my house line for free, because the federal government will replace lead lines.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you all noticed, I'm a white guy. And I live in a majority white neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I called the water people, and they came to my house right away when I said I heard a leak, and they arranged it right away. Is that happening in your neighborhood?
Actually, my daughter, who's incarcerated, owned a home over in the Central Terminal. She's been gone for 8 years. not only did they come out when she was incarcerated to turn the water off, we are still being charged right now. I think it's over $9,000 for usage fee. They knocked the house down and everything.
So I don't think that would happen in my neighborhood in North Buffalo.
No, of course not. Of course not.
And this is the thing that goes on, right? We have neighborhoods in Maston, we have neighborhoods in Cold Spring, we have neighborhoods in the Fruit Belt that don't just have lead connecting lines from the main line to where the house line is, they have lead pipes in those
In
houses.
those homes, yep.
And they also could be replaced for free with federal funds if we had a city that would respond when those owners called the way.
If they had a
respond
soul.
If they had a
They
soul.
had a soul.
If they had a soul. That's right. So here we are on soullessness. So we only have 15 minutes left because we want to make sure we don't keep everyone too late. There are a number of things. So this book is filled with action plans. Just action, how to challenge segregation enacted under the color of law. And what I'm really interested in from all of you and from Reverend Hughes is I'm going to throw out a couple of them. I mentioned defiance, right? So we really need to defy unjust laws and unjust applications of laws, and we need to do it together, right? You and I need to talk and get a lawyer that I know on your side, right? Because we do so much better together. So that's another thing they say. We need to have multiracial outreach in our communities. So they mentioned a story, I mentioned it to you before, of a woman in Chicago who recognized that because Chicago's on such an easy grid, she could fold over the north-south map of Chicago and create address twins. Right, so somebody who had north 1500 on one street was paired with somebody who had south 1500 on the same street. And it turns out that almost always those are multiracial people. But those are not people from similar backgrounds. And they began to create a small community of the people who were address and block and neighborhood twins, north and south. Because we don't spend time with each other.
Right.
This is, I mean, just think about how unusual our tour group was. Our tour group here
It was very interesting.
That was
Yeah.
great.
was fantastically diverse, right? A bunch of white people and a bunch of black people. It was not your normal tour group, and that is amazing. And here we are sitting today, we are also a mixed group on purpose. We have to do this on purpose. So we have to find ways. So our next gathering on the Second American Republic, I'm thinking we do in a different location again. Maybe
All right.
on the east side, maybe in the Teddy Roosevelt site.
All right.
Because Teddy Roosevelt is a figure of that Second American Republic, not necessarily a positive one,
Not a positive one, but yeah, he was a figure.
but we have history here in Buffalo. We should do what we do now, which is meet in those places. And maybe we'll get the tech figured out a little bit better
Yeah.
ahead of time.
Maybe.
And run these live from locations because we should be on the east side of Buffalo doing
Yeah.
this conversation.
Yeah, and you could be inviting people to come once you're doing that.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can picture it like at the Orchard Park Library posting it. I mean, but at libraries there, hey, join us.
So
Right.
this
You guys
is,
could do
this
it.
is my call to all of us to do what they mentioned, which is take our multiracial efforts to the next level. Spend time with people who are not from the same backgrounds, but who live in the same general location, because only then will we create common cause.
Right.
All right, they also mentioned, and this is something that I think is important for you to comment on, home ownership assistance programs. So how could we do those better? Because let's just put it out there, that getting African Americans to own homes in Black neighborhoods does not solve the wealth gap,
Doesn't.
because home ownership means different things in Black neighborhoods than it does in white neighborhoods,
Right.
because housing prices go up in white neighborhoods the way they don't go up in Black neighborhoods, so it doesn't create generational wealth.
Yeah.
So we need to do home ownership differently. If we were to do it differently, and they have some suggestions, what would anybody here suggest that would make a difference in a home ownership program for African Americans?
First of all, they need to have a soul.
Starting at the base.
Starting at the base, I gotta have a soul. Second thing is we have to address this whole credit score issue because I think that is a scam.
So this,
I think it is a scam.
they address this 100%. So one of the things they say is we need to not have banks use the current credit score system.
Yes.
It's
Because the current credit score system is not based in any way, shape, or form on how everybody pays for things.
exactly.
Right? So, for example, my credit score is good because I've had a credit card since I was 20 or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Most people who from different backgrounds don't necessarily have credit cards the way I did. However, most people pay utility bills.
Yep.
Yes.
And if you have a perfect utility bill payment record, it does not go into your credit score.
It doesn't, which is awful. Because if that were the case, I could have the house that I want right now.
If you have
Right.
a perfect tenant's record as
Right.
a renter, it doesn't go into your credit score.
That would be perfect.
Right, so right now, what I'm saying, what I've just laid out there is that the trappings of what we would identify, let's call it clearly, called white wealth, foster a better credit score, whereas the trappings of hard work for most lower and middle income Americans don't.
Doesn't, right.
And I would also like to interject
Please.
about the credit score. You mentioned about your credit history and having a credit card for so long. A lot of people don't know that African Americans, we don't necessarily have that long history.
That's right.
But as you could add your child. And
Mhm.
then on your credit card, they would have that same history that you've had. And so that's a gap that we could never fill,
Right.
you know, and
We're
even,
not, we're not even educated about it. I didn't get my first credit card till what, 10, 12 years ago. So my credit is
Right, but
young.
that was when you were 22, right?
but we were also taught, don't get credit cards.
That's a good one.
That's right. So we were raised,
Right.
right?
You
Don't get credit cards.
don't
Pay
get
cash.
credits.
If you can't pay
That's
cash,
right.
you don't need it.
That's right.
So the conversation
Well, and
about
there's-
credit is totally
And there's a
different.
feedback loop there too, right?
Yeah.
Reverend Denise Walden Glenn told me that up until, 2 or 3 years ago, she'd never bought a car with a car loan.
Exactly,
Well,
exactly.
and why not? Well, because as African Americans going into a car dealership, African Americans
yeah.
do not get the same deal on
Exactly.
on
No.
interest rates for
We
car
never
loans
do.
that I do.
We never do.
My father helped me buy my first car with a car loan.
Exactly.
When I was 19, my money from my bar mitzvah went for down payment, and then I paid the car loan, but my father paid the car insurance. All of that generational wealth, all that stuff, and again, like I got a great rate. I wasn't paying 19%. I was paying 4% on my
Okay.
right.
At 19,
Yes.
you don't even want to know what my rate was.
Well,
Look,
there's
today.
Even today,
24.
we're talking about 14, 20%.
Yes, I
okay?
understand.
Oh,
I
yeah.
understand.
And that's
And,
low.
and by the way, this is in the different loan packages provided by banks to car dealerships in different neighborhoods.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Yes, so it is by zip code as well.
Yes, it is by zip code.
So all of this is entirely, so if we want to have housing, a real change in housing, one of the things is change the way banks determine
Right.
loan credibility. loan
Well,
credibility.
and let's take it even broader. If the country wants minorities to be on the same equal footing as everybody else, like, all the politicians say that, then where's the change?
Where's the change?
Where's the change? Because you're saying the right things, right? If that's a good because if that's what they want, I would say they don't want it.
No, they don't want it.
I
Okay,
would say they don't want it at all.
So let's put it out there that if it's news to some of us here, these things, then there's no way it would be on our radar to even advocate for it.
Right.
Right, exactly.
So that means the majority of white people who might be inclined to have a fairer system
Mhm.
don't even know what we don't know.
Exactly.
We don't know the underlying unfairness, and that goes back 100% to why we're here at this place.
Right.
Which is the untold history of our country, the deliberately obfuscated hidden history
Mhm.
of our country.
Don't know.
continues to contribute to it. By the way, who are those credit scores a public function?
Good question. Yes and no.
No, they're not. Those are three private corporations.
Right, but there are two scores. There are two scores. I'm learning this. This is what
Oh,
I found
yes,
out
that's
within
right.
the last 3 months. There are two scores. There is a system of scores that is public. Well, okay, public is a loose term.
No, but
But-
these are run by private corporations,
Yes.
used by public services.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yes.
But then there's another credit score that is chiefly used by real estate, chiefly used by banks, and it's totally different. Because guess what? When I tried to buy a house last year, oh, your credit score is too low. So you know what? For 12 months, I worked so hard. I boosted my credit score by 24 points. All right. 25, I had the highest credit score I've had in my entire life. No one in my family has a credit score better than me. Guess what? I went back.
It was the wrong score.
It was the wrong score. It's the wrong score. He said, oh yeah, we don't really follow that score. We follow a different score that's just for mortgage brokers and real estate agents and banks. So I said, sir, are you trying to tell me that all of this work that I've been putting into, same guy, you told me that my score was too low to get the mortgage that I needed. And now that my score is high, you're telling me that score didn't matter? And I said, why did you tell me that last year?
They'll never tell you the game.
Right.
Well, and that's exactly the point.
That's
right?
the point.
That on every one of these levels, we are talking about a game where the rules are not shared.
Right.
So one of the things that they talk about is accountability and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
The people who have benefited from unfair systems, like, let's talk about buying a house on contract.
Mm-hmm.
Any of you white people understand what that is?
Contract?
Yeah.
Oh,
Contract.
Contract.
Yes.
So because the FHA didn't guarantee loans to African Americans, how did African Americans buy homes? African Americans bought homes on contract.
Mm-hmm.
Contract loans, unguaranteed by the FHA,
Right.
not offered by banks,
Right.
offered by mostly swindlers.
Yep.
Right.
And I mean, the interest rates, oh,
Right, but none of them paid into
none of them.
the capital. So you
None.
never paid into the
Never.
You never earned any capital on a contract.
Yep.
And the offer of the contract could withhold it
Mm-hmm.
and repossess the home.
They can repossess the home. That almost happened to my mother.
On any violation that they decided.
Yep.
They decide. Yeah.
That almost happened to my mother. She had to get legal advice.
And this is, right, you know, in addition to blockbusting and all the other
Yes,
stuff. But
yes.
So which banks were formed out of the mergers of former institutions that used to do contract loans? I'll give you a hint. One of them is based in Buffalo named M&T.
Yep.
So we need to have transparency in history and then accountability in today, and and demand that these financial institutions that have made money off the backs of impoverishing African Americans actually participate in stopping doing that really seriously now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because again, I live in a world where my family did better than your family because your family paid for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That is this world. That is
Yeah.
America.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I bet Nanette Massey has something to say. I don't know. I'm not saying that, but
Annette Massey always
I
says
know.
something.
And I remember at her workshop with us, she talked about keeping her house in the east side in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And how it was only worth 45,000 compared to
Yeah.
us in Orchard Park.
Yeah.
where our houses were worth hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
We'll see
And
if
all
I
that.
can- if I
And I
can-
would love to hear her comments, if you don't mind my saying so. I hope she doesn't mind.
We never mind inviting Nanette to speak. Nanette,
Hello, you can hear me?
we can hear
Yes.
you.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. I'm stunned. The person that remembered my story about how I couldn't sell my house for 45. I'm always stunned. People actually remember what I said and were actually listening. So thank you very much. But I found out recently that my grandfather was in World War II. And I wondered how, I wondered if he did take advantage of the GI Bill. So I asked one of my aunties about it, and she tells me that this was still an all-white neighborhood when my grandfather bought it.
Mhm.
So he had the wherewithal to buy I imagine the neighborhood at the time was, white people were running scared, and that's why he was able to, to buy from a white person. And this neighborhood was all Jewish at the time. I looked at the original paperwork, and he bought the house off of a woman named Cohen, who I imagine was a widow because it was just her. But yeah, my auntie told me that this neighborhood was still white when he bought here, which means he probably was able to take advantage of the GI Bill.
Mm.
And I wonder, it makes me wonder, what went into his processes, having the wherewithal to buy in a white neighborhood so that he could, take advantage of the bill. And it also makes me wonder about that Cohen woman. Who was this brave woman who sold her house to a black man? Just makes me wonder all kinds of stuff there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You're giving Mrs. Cohen a lot of credit. I think, right, the phenomenon that we have in those situations is not necessarily that Mrs. Cohen is doing the brave thing and selling to an African American, but Mrs. Cohen is skipping out of town in order to move to the suburbs.
I was thinking the same.
Right, because the Jefferson neighborhood in which your house is, yes, there were a ton of Jewish neighborhoods in Buffalo historically that later became later Jews left, including my current neighborhood. Right, so I'm zoned for Bennett High School in Buffalo. So, and Bennett High School is now almost entirely African American.
Mm.
In the 1960s, I know a lot of the members of Temple Beth Zion who grew up in my neighborhood. The Jewish high school of record where you went if you were cool was Bennett High School.
Mhm.
So things change pretty darn quickly. We are at like 2:00, and I first of all, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all of you for being here and showing up in person. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
And showing up from Houston. Who knew we were going to get a Houstonian here? You definitely get the award for the longest commute. and so we now have a couple of things going on to tell everybody about. First of all, we are thrilled to continue to accept donations to keep this going on. So I will put out links for all that if you don't already know. So we have a Patreon account, so feel free to donate monthly on Patreon if you just want to make a one-time donation. We do it through Open Door Judaism, which is my organization, but it's for Accomplices for Justice. And right now we're just covering costs. Someday maybe we'll get an honorary.
Maybe.
out of it.
One day. What's your name again, ma'am?
Chiquita Stewart.
Chiquita Stewart. Do you mind leaving us your information so we can correspond to you with the links and all that? Good.
Yes.
And yeah,
Especially as a teacher who works
Yes.
with students
Oh,
who
no,
need it.
we're
We're
gonna
talking
bring-
to a whole bunch of teachers.
we're gonna bring you back to Buffalo for a program.
Hey, I'm ready.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
You haven't said anything.
So
I am the one to go. Yes, you say go, okay.
So
No,
two weeks
need to
from
stay in
today,
touch.
which is August 5th.
August something, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, August 5th.
We are going to be talking about the rise and fall of the Second American Republic. This book by Manisha Sinha, and this will be right on topic of history's once told and lost.
Mhm.
Consider this the 21st century update to W.E.B. Du Bois's Black Reconstruction.
Reconstruction, yeah.
A very worthwhile read. We'll be talking about more about history and its deliberate being forgotten.
Right.
And
Redacted.
well, and we didn't get to talk about Vice President Harris today. One of the things that Ginny, my much smarter partner, and I were talking about is how if we had had a Vice President Harris as president over the last 4 years, I would imagine somebody might have gone down to Florida and started reading banned books to kids on behalf of the federal government.
Probably.
Because you know what? Maybe we ought to do that. Maybe we ought to go and instead of freedom rides, we ought to have we ought to have banned book rides.
A banned book ride. Oh my God, that sounds like fun. That sounds like fun.
Nowadays, you could also do it virtually even. I mean, that's sort of what we.
And how about
Yes.
the fact that we ought to be opening up emergency clinics with the National Guard for women facing health emergencies in Texas, right? Why not have the federal government take care of that? We didn't have, I love President Biden and he has done some amazing things, but we did not have a response to the terrible things going on in our society from the federal government when we should have.
Right.
And I am hopeful that with a potential President Harris, we might be able to see something like that. All right, so that's 2 weeks from today. We are maybe going to pick an on-site location like the TR site, the Teddy Roosevelt site. For those who don't know, in Buffalo, we have a building dedicated to where Teddy Roosevelt was sworn in as president, because President McKinley was assassinated.
Right there in Buffalo.
Yeah, downtown. It's not downtown.
Yes.
Yeah,
Almost downtown.
almost downtown.
And so that'll be 2 weeks. 4 weeks, we have a special guest. Dr. Jennifer Roberts will be joining us. Dr. Roberts is a PhD in environmental racism and is writing a book called The Emerald Necklace about the basically destruction of the Frederick Law Olmsted City in the Park plan by racism. And so she's writing about that. We're going to be talking about environmental racism.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. I'm just, that reminded me of something that I learned about Central Park, the history of Central Park in New York City.
Oh, yes.
Environmental racism.
Yes, a park built on the remains
On the
of
remains of an African city called Seneca Village.
Yes.
African Americans, and they went in there and kicked them all out, killed them, burned their houses down, and
Yes,
put Central Park on
because
top
New
of
York
it.
is such a
Right.
progressive state.
Exactly.
So,
You didn't hear about that? Oh,
Oh,
wow.
and I'm a Long Island girl.
Yeah,
So-
so
I had no idea.
stay tuned.
so for the environmental racism, we're bringing a bunch of resources to bear. One is A Terrible Thing to Race, Environmental Racism and Its Assault on the American Mind by Harriet Washington, who also wrote an amazing book called Medical Apartheid about how if you want to understand why African Americans don't trust American medicine, there's a
Yes.
lot of reasons for it.
Yes.
And I just picked up to advertise again, promote again for the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center. Today, I just picked up this book here, recommended by somebody here, Love Canal Revisited, Race, Class, and Gender in Environmental Activism. So talk about our terrible response to Love Canal here in town. Any final words, any blessings for us today, Reverend Doctor?
I'm still hung up on this soul thing. We gotta have more soul.
So let's-
We need more soul.
Let's end on, let's say that one of the things that I have learned, that I continue to learn from Reverend Hughes, from Reverend Denise Walden Glenn, and Whitney Walker, who are two of my primary teachers in how to be better in America, is listen first, and listen with our souls.
Right.
So let's listen with our souls to find our partners, our accomplices in this work. Let's go to places and listen with our souls and recognize that we need to show up in places we don't show up. But we need to show up listening with our souls. Reverend George Nicholas, who is retiring, but is
Yes, he is.
a powerhouse here in town, and he said to me that he and a group of pastors, that he feels like white people keep on coming into his neighborhood and they with solutions, but they never heard the lament.
Right.
And so let's listen first. Let's listen with our
Some of our
souls
souls.
to the lament and then find the solutions together. And on that, we're going to say thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And
Thank you. Quite edifying. Thanks.